Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sara Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3. I believe your body does want to and is capable of rebuilding and healing itself regardless of what chronic disease you may have. And I'm here for you to answer your questions, bring you innovative and cutting-edge technology and health solutions to empower you and your ability to reach your optimal state of health. Today, my guest is back talking about thyroid health and how it affects your overall health. And I know that you really need that strong physical foundation and optimal thyroid in order to work on your mental and spiritual growth, whether it's overcoming anxiety and depression, losing weight, or detoxing your body in the proper way, and even increasing that level of frequency in life. You need that strong physical foundation of health in order to gain the willpower to make the bigger changes in your life. If you're new to following me, I specialize in helping you get there. You can find my health articles, my cutting edge frequency enhanced natural supplements, devices, and protocols at sarabantahealth.com. I dive into an array of health conditions, their causes and symptoms, and how to address them naturally. sarabantahealth.com is the sponsor of this show, so as you support my website, I'm able to bring you more cutting-edge content and guests to the show. First, I want to talk about some tools you can use to enhance the results you achieve, make it easier to reverse hormonal decline, improve energy, and reverse aging, all that's related to the thyroid, right? The goal is to reverse insulin resistance, reduce toxicity, improve mitochondrial health, and increase energy at the cellular level. All of these things are tied to reverse aging and eliminating all chronic disease. The first is Accelerated Silver. This is the supplement that started Accelerated Health Products. My son was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 9. Since then, no one in our family of 5, him and his 2 sisters, my husband and myself, have been sick, missed a day of school, been on antibiotics in the last 11 years, and no longer he doesn't have leukemia. He is a college student at the age of 20, having fun and thriving. Accelerated Silver is enhancing your immune system's ability to devitalize foreign pathogens, including viruses, bacteria, fungus, and parasites. And if your immune system is bombarded with fighting foreign pathogens, it can't simultaneously engage in anti-aging mechanisms or autoimmune issues. And by keeping your immune system strong, the body engages in anti-inflammatory processes, leading to optimal health. It's enhanced with scalar frequencies to increase its efficacy, and no other silver solution has this. Next is the Accelerated Keto. This flips you into fat burning mode within 30 minutes, and your body taps into its own fat stores for energy right away. Your body feels great physically and mentally, and it uses its own fat stores. What you do is now you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Tell me what to eat. Tell me what to do. I'm ready, right? So the body is running on ketones produced by the Accelerated Keto. Combine that with intermittent fasting and a low carb diet, ATP production is going to skyrocket, and mitochondria and energy increases. Furthermore, the additional ingredients in the Accelerated Keto break down saturated fats into those unsaturated fats, and that makes them much more easy to utilize and for the body to convert into ketones. So when you're fasting, the body fat's more readily available to burn for energy, which increases ketones and autophagy mechanisms further. And that autophagy is cleaning up the junk and the inflammation in the body. And because of this property, accelerated keto is able to defat the liver. And if you know me, you know I love my liver. We need to be cleansing our liver 3 to 4 times a year. And we're going to talk about the importance of liver health with the thyroid with our guest as well. And the more a person's liver is defatted and unclogged, the easier it is for the liver to function in all areas, including breaking down those fat molecules into usable energy and optimizing your natural detoxification pathways and increasing mitochondrial biogenesis. This is all really, really important now more than ever with the amount of toxicity in our lives, the amount of viral load that we are being exposed to, and the way our immune systems have been taken to another level. So it's really important. The more the liver's defatted and unclogged, it's easier to function, and it's also easier to convert the thyroid hormone T4 into the active hormone T3. And we'll get into that as well with our guest. And the thyroid, as that is working better, your metabolism's going to improve, your mitochondrial function will improve, and your energy will improve. The brain fog goes away. You feel so much better. Accelerated keto also has HMB, which prevents muscle wasting. And when you have more muscle, you have more ATP, you have more mitochondria, and you have more cellular energy. Next is the Acceleridine Iodine, which is, of course, really important for the thyroid, but iodine is needed in all tissues, in all 100 trillion cells in your body, and it increases ATP by 18 times, not 18%, 18 times. This is true cellular energy, and you need it for brain function, physical performance, wound healing, fat burning, and that awesome thing called healthy apoptosis, which is the destruction of disease cells. When ATP is increased by the Acceleridine and the accelerated keto, and adding in the intermittent fasting, and adding in the low carb, gluten-free, maybe dairy-free diet, that ATP number shoots through the roof. Acceleridine is the only iodine that is monoatomic and feeds every cell directly without having to be broken down like other iodine supplements. Most other iodine supplements have toxic ingredients or toxic iodine and are only about 10 to 20% absorbed. Acceleridine is 100% bioavailable. It's further enhanced with scalar frequencies to detox the cells from heavy metals, graphene oxide, and radiation, and no other iodine incorporates the healing scalar frequencies. So next is the accelerated ancient salt, and this is really important because it's essential to have emulsifying salt and minerals, not only to stimulate digestion, but to also hydrate the cells when you're fasting. When we're fasting, we may lose some water weight, and we're also losing some electrolytes. When you're detoxing with the Acceleridine and accelerated keto, that accelerated salt helps plump up the volume of the blood and flush out the toxins. It also can help you with nausea. If you get some nausea, a lot of people are having a hard time digesting fats and proteins because of the spiked protein and what that has done to our systems. And the accelerated ancient salt actually helps break down those fats and helps digestion, helps detoxification. Of course, it tastes amazing, and once you have it, you're never going to want to use another salt again. And coming soon is the accelerated thyroid. This combines the Ayurvedic herbal supplements that are amazing for thyroid health with advanced glandular therapy. And it's the only formula that does this. It is meant to support the full endocrine system. Coming soon. So make sure you check out for that. And you can also add in the Life Wave stem cell patches, energy enhancer patch. I wear them every day, and those increase ATP production in the mitochondria, increase heart rate variability, and help with that phase angle of the cells, which is the integrity of the cell walls, letting the toxins out and the nutrients into our cells. So as you pair that with the accelerated keto, your fat burning increases, you're tapping into an endless supply of fuel. It literally jumps up that ATP production within 20 minutes of putting the patches on. You can put on the X49 patch, which is known to increase energy, help with the fat burning, increase muscle mass, which is really important as we're getting older. And it also has been shown to help protect us from 5G and radiation. It's almost kind of like wearing this Faraday cage around your body, and then you're detoxing with the supplements to get the excess radiation and heavy metals out of your body, which, as we know, is really important for thyroid health, as we're going to talk about. The X39 patch increases your own stem cell production and resets over 4,000 genes in your body. So your body is essentially acting as if your 20-year-old self is there again, right? So you're detoxing better, your energy's better, your immune system's stronger. All of those things are working better. So you can check all of those things out on my website, sarabantahealth.com. I give more tips and tools through my free group coaching. The link is below on Telegram. You can also email me through the website. The difference between me and any other group coaching is I provide the most cutting edge frequency enhanced supplements that work synergistically with each other, and your body doesn't experience those flu-like symptoms. You do feel great day one. Leave the comment below if you're interested, or check it on the website, sarabantahealth.com. Now to the good stuff. Elle Russ is back. She's a best-selling author and thought leader on confidence, self-esteem, and intention. She is also a world-renowned thyroid health expert, as you will see, and we are so excited to have her back. She's been on before, and you guys all need this. Welcome, Elle. How are you?
Hi, great to see you. I'm doing well.
Well, I mean, I honestly, you must be busier than ever, because I feel like over the last 2 years, thyroid health has taken another plummet. Like Everybody has Hashimoto's, some sort of thyroid disease, autoimmune issues, as we were talking about before we got on. And with any autoimmune issue, it's affecting your thyroid. And the thyroid is the master endocrine gland. So I first wanted to get into the fact that you, with the thyroid, if your thyroid is off, your whole system's off. And your symptoms might not be just, oh, I can't lose weight, right? It's my metabolism. It might be depression. It might be headaches. It might be constipation. Let's talk about what you're seeing as some side symptoms that doctors are missing. And they're giving medications for things other than the thyroid as being the main problem.
So first of all, it is on the rise. 200 million people in the world have it, 25 million plus Americans, and 60% are undiagnosed. So this is never ending. This, as long as we have uninformed doctors and also uninformed people about the health and what they're putting into their mouth and how they operate, there's going to be thyroid problems. Just the other day, a friend of mine who has a male, perfect weight, 33 years old, never a thyroid issue, no Hashimoto's, nothing. He has developed a reverse T3 issue. Excuse me. I was talking a lot earlier today, so I think my voice is a little bit off. So he developed a reverse T3 issue because he's so stressed. He barely gets any sleep. He's so stressed in this modern world that can cause a thyroid problem, where otherwise there would be no problem. So even something like stress can do it. Now, let's talk about some of the symptoms where doctors will give you something other than thyroid hormone for it, or will just not realize it's coming from the thyroid. As you mentioned, the thyroid's the master gland. So what does that mean? That means that it's in charge of the production and regulation of all of our sex hormones, our heart rate, our body temperature. These things are all very, very important to all processes of life. I was coaching a thyroid client who was so hypothyroid. When you're very hypothyroid, your body temperature sometimes never gets above 96 degrees, where most humans are at 98.6. Okay. And so she had a fever for her that was 99. And when she was in the hospital, they're like, that's nothing. You only have 99. She goes, no, but for me, that's a fever, right? So not even being able to gauge that. All right. Here's what'll happen. someone will get some kind of problem. So let's say you have miscarriages or infertility, or you have endometriosis, or you have PCOS, or something's happening gynecologically with you as a woman, let's say, or a man, you have low testosterone, you're having trouble with erections, recovering from exercise. Now, both of those things seem very sex hormone related. So the uninformed doctor might do the wrong thing, which they usually do, which is instead of go ahead and check the master to those things to see and rule that out and see what can be done there, they will do a patchwork operation by just giving you a pill or surgery or whatever it is for the symptom. So in the case of PCOS, without checking the thyroid, they might give you metformin, right? And you're going down that road now. For me, I had my menstrual period all the time. That was my first awful symptom that kept coming up. What did the doctor do then? The dumb, uninformed doctor just kept giving me the birth control pill. Again, let's slap a little solution on this, but it's not getting to the root of the problem. So almost, I mean, in my book, I had 30 of 40 symptoms that I listed, right? So brain fog, well, that could be because you just need more iron and you've been a vegetarian for 15 years. Maybe you just need to think about that. That also happened to my friend who I just told you had the stress-induced reverse T3 thyroid problem. I saw his iron labs and I said to him, he's a pescatarian. And I said, hey, look, I know you're a pescatarian and he eats very well. But I said, when's the last time you ate meat? And he said, I don't know, maybe 14 years ago. I said, well, even though you're a guy and you're not menstruating, this is a disaster. You know what I mean? And then it was confirmed with his doctor and they were like, yeah, you need to get some iron in you, right? So sometimes a symptom can be a simple fix. I've had people come to me that honestly, they just needed a dumb supplement like iron. And that really was it. Because if iron stores are low, your own thyroid hormones can't get to where you need to go, and you might have brain fog and some symptoms that seem like thyroid symptoms, but they're actually related to something small. Sometimes it's an easy fix, right? And then other times it's really the doctor just trying to patchwork the symptom of the problem you're complaining about without looking at this. So a great example is someone who, let's say someone needed to go on thyroid hormone because they had a horrible thyroid problem. They're on thyroid hormone, but the doctor hasn't really figured it out. So they might be on thyroid hormone, but they're not optimized, which means they could still be hypothyroid, even though they think every day they're taking this pill that the doctor told them for thyroid. So then they come in complaining about depression. Okay. And so then the doctor might look at a list of thyroid symptoms and go, oh, well, you have hypothyroidism. Depression goes along with it. We'll give you some Prozac. Now, I'm not saying no one ever needs Prozac, but here's where that problem is. That doctor is so clueless about how to treat and optimize this person. If he knew what he was doing, he would realize that you never just chalk off that symptom, because if your thyroid is treated properly through thyroid hormone replacement, you don't have depression.
Right.
Okay. Again, there's some rare caveats, but forget those for a minute. So again, those are the doctors that are just so uninformed that they're thinking, oh, well, you still have a symptom. Hey, if you still have a hypothyroid symptom, you're still hypothyroid. Okay. And that means something needs to change. So that happens a lot too. And that can be very frustrating because the person thinks, well, I'm just listening to my doctor. I don't know anything because I'm just relying on my doctor. That's a problem in and of itself, but that's most of us, right? We expect that the endocrinologist is going to be an expert in the endocrine system. You know, I got a message the other day from an MD, and he's like, I've listened to so many of your interviews. I took like tons of notes. He said, when someone has a thyroid problem, I recommend your book. And he said, I tell them you're not a doctor, but that you know more than most, including me. Now, that's a great compliment. Sure, but that shouldn't be the case. I shouldn't know more than an MD about thyroid. I really shouldn't. I kind of don't want to. I wish I didn't, because they should be doing their job. They should be informed. But what they learned 30, 40 years ago in one class, the standard way to treat hypothyroidism, whatever it is, they're not digging deeper. They're not going above and beyond their training. And so while I'm so happy to help a doctor figure it out, because and that's a great doctor, he's not an ego. He's not going, well, I spent all this money for an MD and I know more. He's going, wow, I could actually learn from her. And he's not afraid to admit that. That's actually probably a really great doctor, because he's willing to learn and go above and beyond his training, because he says, maybe I don't know something here. That's the kind of doctor you're looking for. Do you know what I mean? And I'll stop there and see what else you might want me to touch on or what I left out.
A couple things. It brings up the point where the doctors are going to address whatever they can fix with medication. So
Right.
the Prozac is going to fix the depression. But I want to talk about like Synthroid and
Mhm.
and some of the medications and how that could maybe not work and why it's not working. And the other thing I want you to touch on is from stress. If say someone is taking their medication, but the stress is causing T4 to convert into reverse T3 instead of T3. So maybe your medication was working at some level and now it's not. So if
That's
you
right.
could touch on that, but touch on the different medications as well.
Okay, so just on your last point first, this would occur if you were on a T4 containing thyroid hormone replacement. So that would be either Synthroid only, which is T4 only, levothyroxine, or it would be if you were on a T4 T3 combination. If the T4 overconverts into reverse T3, you are going to be hypothyroid even though you're on thyroid hormone replacement. And like you said, it could be just because they were under stress, like the thyroid stuff was working before, but now they're up late at night, they're stressed, they're not dealing with all the things they need. Maybe their diet has become terrible, whatever that is. So yes, that's where those lifestyle changes need to be implemented, or they need some selenium, to help with, they could be deficient in something. So that's absolutely worth investigation. There is a last resort choice for those people where you do everything and you cannot clear up a reverse T3 problem. And then you would go on T3 only because T3 does not convert into reverse T3, but it is the last resort choice. And I say that because I am someone who's mostly on T3 only, and it's a pain in the butt, and it's not endocrine mimicry. Neither is Synthroid. So let's talk about Synthroid for a second. Synthroid is just the brand name for T4, levothyroxine. And back in the 1800s, there was a brilliant English physician who people had a bunch of goiters where their thyroid glands were enlarged. He extracted sheep thyroid gland, injected into these people, and it worked. And thus was born natural desiccated thyroid, which is a treatment for hypothyroidism. It is a prescription. It is not a glandular that you go buy from a health food store. Those are different and devoid of hormones. This is, got T4 and T3 in it. And what happened is everyone was being treated by this for many, many years, and it went really well until the 1950s. And in the 1950s, drug companies could not patent chopped up, dried pig gland. So they patented Synthroid, T4 only. And then they went on a propaganda brigade against NDT. Every endocrinologist became, this is the only decision and choice for how to treat thyroid. To this day, every endocrinologist will start with T4 only, and they shouldn't, because actually it's not endocrine mimicry. Now, it can work. It can be a valid choice, but it often fails people. And why does it often fail people in the end? Because our bodies, if your thyroid's working normal and you don't have any thyroid problems, our bodies don't completely rely on the conversion of T4 to T3 alone. Our thyroids actually do pump out a lot of T4 and a little bit T3, but it gives us direct T3. When you're talking about a T4 T3 combo that mimics natural desiccated thyroid doses, you are talking about those sort of ratios. And so that is more endocrine mimicry. So the best choice usually, and there's caveats to all of this and nuances, the best choice for thyroid hormone replacement usually is a T4 T3 combination. If you are opposed to natural desiccated thyroid because it comes from an animal, whether you're a vegan or have a religious issue, then you would just mimic those same ratios of NDT with levothyroxine and liothyronine sodium, T4 and T3. You could also go to a compounding pharmacy. Maybe you're allergic to a filler in Synthroid or Cytomel, and so you would have that compounded. So there's lots of ways to do it, but the most optimal usually is a T4 T3 combination. The last resort choice would be T3 only, although it's something I had to do and a lot of people have to do. And thank God it's a choice. And then T4 only, usually not the best first choice, but often the first choice of uninformed doctors. And I hope I answered that. And if I need to clear anything up, I'm happy to get into it.
No, you did for sure. And so how does someone know what they need? It's funny because I'm in my mind, you were talking about men and testosterone and women and their female hormones. And my husband right now, he works out hard. He eats, I cook for him. So, he's eating good.
Yep.
And he's like, just not getting the results he wants to get. And he thinks it's his testosterone. So he's going through some blood tests and all of these tests. And I'm looking at his thyroid. Now, of course, the doctor only ordered the TSH. So I am now ordering the full thyroid panel, and his TSH was in normal range, but according to you would be too high. And I'm sitting here going, it's thyroid. It is thyroid, which is then maybe affecting your.
Well, wait, is it too high? Well, like, I don't know the result. And then also you'd have to compare it with the free T3, free T4, and reverse T3. Although, so let's just give everyone an idea here. A TSH value usually in the United States is somewhere like 0.45 to 5.0. Let's just make it easy for everyone, 0 to 5. And so if someone had 130 TSH, which I have seen, then I can already be like, oh my God, this person is suffering, because that's the signal from the brain, and that's a scream. 150 would be a scream. But let's say your husband got up, worked out fasting, then went to go get his blood work done, and it's at 4.0. I wouldn't base anything off of that. I'd want to see the other results. Now, there are doctors that would base it off of that, and that would be wrong. That would be borderline malpractice, because the TSH fluctuates so much. That was just a snapshot. He just worked out. He's fasting. At that point, he got his blood drawn. It just might be the signal from the pituitary that says, hey, this guy needs some more thyroid hormone. It's part of the process. It should never be the sole unit of measurement, which obviously this happened to you. You went to the doctor and they just took the TSH. See, this is what happens. Of course. I mean, this is the problem. That is the bane of most thyroid patients' existence. So you have to look at the other things. The other thing too is we don't really go by numbers. So your TSH could be a little bit elevated. I mean, if it were crazy elevated, then I would expect, if I saw 130 TSH, I would suspect, and usually it is the case, by the way, when I do look at blood work like this, that the free T3 and free T4 would be 0, bottom of the range, nothing. Okay, because literally that is the brain screaming. That TSH signal of 130 on a range of 0 to 5 is a big indicator. But we still need to look at everything to determine that and make a stamp of what is exactly the problem. So it would be interesting. I'm happy to, look at his lab someday. The other thing too is if your husband is very fit and an efficient person who eats really well, he might have a free T3 that's like maybe not at the very middle of the range where most people with no thyroid problems have. So let's say the range is 2.0 to 4.0 for free T3. Let's say your husband's is 2.7. Does that mean he has a thyroid problem? Now we got to go. Does he have symptoms? What are the temps? We look at other things because there are a lot of people like Mark Sess and Brendan Greenfield and lots of like big athlete, dudes, and they are actually just what I call T3 efficient. They need a little less T3 to operate than other people. Does that mean they have a problem because it's just a little bit below what the mid-range is? No, you need to evaluate on other factors. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that was something I wanted to touch on because if I'm correct, you need more T3 when you're eating more carbohydrates in your diet. Would that be correct? Or
that is usually, that would be a likely scenario. So it is usually these people that are low carb, metabolically efficient, calorically efficient, fat burners, not sugar burners, all of the things that you teach and know and live yourself. That being said, people would say, keto is terrible for thyroid, right? Now there's really not a lot of truth to that. I know people have been keto for 20 years and they don't have a thyroid problem. Okay. But there is potentially an argument that we need some glucose to move T3 into the cells. It's sort of like anything. Unless you have a reason to be keto all the time, such as a traumatic brain injury, epilepsy, there's lots of reasons to stay in ketosis, you know what I mean, for health issues. But like anything else, and if we're talking about ancestral health, they wouldn't have been keto the entire time, all day, every day, year round. There would have been a time when they would have come across some blueberries and honey and some other things, right? And so that's where some carnivore people, which is a valid lifestyle, have realized over time that sometimes after too long, they need to start incorporating some honey or a little bit of fruit. And then there are some that can't handle any plant matter, and that's okay. And they have to live their life that way too. So keto doesn't cause a thyroid problem. It also won't totally fix one either. The only time where adopting a keto diet would probably shore up a thyroid problem is if the person had type 2 diabetes. They had moved towards, they accidentally ate themselves into type 2 diabetes. That would make them insulin resistant, and that also would mess up their thyroid. So in that case, if they went keto to shore that up, their thyroid might come back into action in the way that it should. But again, there's really no hard calls on keto's bad for thyroid, keto's good for thyroid. It's just really like it's a personal thing. You have to find your own threshold with how you want to live your life and do some tests. So is it keto-ish? Is it being metabolically flexible? That's sort of where I land. And that's sort of my mentor, Mark Sisson, preaches that, going in and out. Maybe we're still staying low carb, right? We're not going crazy, but you don't necessarily always need to be like, I'm testing my blood every morning. And again, unless you have epilepsy or traumatic brain injuries, we're like, okay, these things really come into play and can be the difference between having no seizures and seizures. Yeah, then you might want to stay in ketosis all the time. Yeah. But that's also not a completely natural state to be in 24/7. If it works for you, great, but it's not something, again, I think there's too many hard lines, right? Like there's keto people that are like, don't ever eat fruit. You're like, yeah, have the apple. You know what I mean? I mean, we would have cycled with these things, we're women too. We have to look at the fact that a lot of studies are only done on men. So I think it's about, and this is really the nature of primal ancestral living, is sort of being intuitive, right? There would be some overindulgence times, and then there would be starvation times, right? But if you were starving yourself because you're anorexic, overworking out, under eating, you will get a thyroid problem because that's what we call euthyroid 6 syndrome. And that is a starvation signal. And so your body's trying to protect you. It doesn't want to give you any more T3, the fat burning fuel, energy giving T3, because it's like, whoa. Sarah's running from danger. She's having a problem, right? It's not seeing that you're just trying to be the skinniest model on, you know what I mean? You're not getting enough satiating fats. You're not getting enough nutrition. And that is likely what happened to me. And that's usually what happens. You're over exercising. You're not doing the right diet. At the time when this hit me, I was doing like low carb and low fat. That's not good. That's a disaster waiting to happen. And again, I was just on the wrong paradigm. I was a sugar burner. I didn't know better. So I was in that arena of just overworking out and maybe probably not eating enough satiating macronutrients, and they were probably really off. So the body goes, we're going to shut this down. And furthermore, we're not going to let her get pregnant, right? So we're going to give her a miscarriage. It's almost like your body's always trying to save you. And this thyroid feedback loop is so important to your life. You cannot live without a thyroid. You cannot live without thyroid hormones. So if you are missing the gland because of thyroid cancer or something else, and you're on a stranded island, you're going to be the first one to die if you don't have your medication. It's going to go south pretty quick. So when you have subpar levels of thyroid hormones, it is kind of like a slow death. It's accelerated aging. Things start falling apart. Your hair's falling out. You get all these symptoms, and then something will happen. And then that's where the patchwork starts, right? Because you'll have a symptom that comes up and then the doctors are trying to patchwork all of the things, like, oh, here, we'll give you the hormones. So in the case of a guy with, low testosterone who came to me, he was 25 years old. Now, anyone should be suspicious of a 25-year-old who has low testosterone. Right. I would have immediately said, let's check the thyroid, because that is the main gland there. But the doctor didn't. Instead, the doctor gave him the thing, patched it. Oh, you're lacking testosterone? I'll give you testosterone. He felt better for a couple of weeks and nothing happened. We checked his thyroid blood work. He had a horrible hypothyroidism issue, and it was a reverse T3 problem. He ended up having to go on T3 only, which solved the thyroid problem, weaned off the testosterone. Guess what? His testosterone came back. It will come back to the high school levels, of like what a 25-year-old should have. I know 25-year-olds aren't in high school, but they will have really high levels. You know what I mean? And the same goes for older people. Brad Kearns, my colleague, and Brad had a thing where he was doing keto and doing some experiments, but he was also doing speed golf, a lot of activity. And he was so satiated by the keto, he kind of didn't even realize that he wasn't eating enough calories, and his testosterone dropped. And then we had this conversation. I was like, Brad, I think maybe you just got so satiated. Like, and you're doing so much activity, like maybe we need to. And then he just adjusted carb levels for his level of activity, and his testosterone at age 57 went way to the top of the range. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that kind of gives
it does. And I talk to my clients a lot about the fact that what was right for you a few years ago with your diet is not right for you today, maybe. Or maybe right now you've got leaky gut, or you were exposed to the virus and you actually can't do lectins for whatever reason, or you're having a problem digesting fats. And I know that I was strict keto, and now I've incorporated a lot more healthy fruits and carbs into my diet, and I can feel my metabolism stoke, right? And it's this wave of just kind of being more intuitive with what my body feels good on. And some meals I'm totally carnivore. Some meals I have a big salad with my dinner. It's whatever I feel good, and listen to my gut, listen to my body, listen to my energy. And, as you are, with everything that we are all being exposed to in the last couple of years, if your immune system is on high alert, your thyroid, like you were saying, might be downgraded because it's in survival. It's focusing on fighting a virus or a bacteria or something like that. Real quick, we are going to take a short commercial break. We could talk forever, and we will come right back with Elle Russ. Welcome back to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sara Banta, the owner of Accelerated Health Products. And today we have Elle Russ talking about the thyroid. Elle, we were talking about diet and how, yes, it's important to maybe go in and out of low carb and adding some healthy carbs back in and maybe some changes. But there are some definite things that are negatives for the thyroid. So let's talk about the dietary things that you absolutely should try to stay away from. And some of the things, because you mentioned vegans, and I wanted to touch on that, where you need these certain nutrients for your thyroid, and they only come in certain foods. So let's get into that.
Yeah, so I'll give a great example that happened. I was, before the pandemic, I was at the gym, and there was a woman who maybe she was 55 years old, and she was in the locker room trying to convince another woman to go vegan. And normally I would stay out of these scenarios, but I piped in, I couldn't help it. And I just looked at the woman she was trying to convince, and I go, please don't listen to her. We are meant to eat animals. And the vegan looked at me and she goes, so you think it's okay to murder, okay. And it was just a little bit of a thing. And I was like, oh boy. All right. So, but then a few weeks later, I was in the sauna at the gym, or it was a couple months. I don't think she remembered that she was talking to the same person, maybe because my hair was all wet or whatever. She didn't recognize me, but she comes into the sauna and she's in her swimsuit, just came in from the pool. And she's sitting there. She goes, oh my God, I can't catch my breath. Like I swim every day, but like, I can't seem to catch my breath. And so I immediately got up and took her out of the sauna. And I was like, hey, you're a vegan, right? I remembered our conversation. And she goes, yeah. And I said, when is the last time you had B12? And her mouth dropped. She was like, oh my God, you're right. I haven't. I haven't. And I said, listen, and I wrote down exactly hey, go to this store, go get this, methyl B12 folate, start taking it. And I said, listen, if you're going to, and again, I didn't chastise her. I wanted to be so do you think I'm a murderer now? This is the exact reason why you need to eat meat, right? Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. You don't have to eat meat. But if you make this choice, you are making the choice to go against what your DNA expects of you. And that's okay. I'm not even judging it. But that means you are going to have to shore up nutrients, right? You are going to have to get iron and, B12 and amino acids from somewhere, right? Even my pescatarian healthy friend is low in iron and he's a male because again, he just didn't think that, this is something I'm missing out on. Yes, it will happen to everyone when that happens. So, and then she came back. I saw her a couple weeks later and she was so grateful. She said, "Thank you so much. Oh my God, I feel so much better. I can't believe I spaced this." It's like, yeah, well, that should just be a part of your life if this is the kind of choice you're making. And somehow, like, she didn't see that, right? So she's still going to go call people murderers for eating meat, and that's fine. But it is absolute proof of what I just said. Our DNA expects us to eat animals, okay? So it doesn't mean you have to, okay? You don't have to, but then you're going to run into trouble and you should be careful.
Yes. And I always say, vegans usually feel good for the first 6 months because they're not eating the standard American diet. It's not what they are eating, it's what they're not eating. And after that, the body then says, okay, you've cleaned me out pretty good. Now what? I need my B vitamins. I need my iron. I need all of those nutrients that actually that red wild, and I really promote wild animal protein and away from the chicken and the conventional beef because of the amyloid proteins. But when you get that nutrient dense bison and the liver, I know you talk about liver, the importance of it, that has so much more nutrients than the plants that most vegans think they're getting the nutrients from. And the plants have those plant poisons that probably are affecting your gut absorption, triggering gut pathogens, creating imbalance, creating bloat, creating the excess weight gain. I know for me, I'm not going to binge on a ribeye steak. I might have two, but that's not a binge, right? Because my brain says, oh, you got plenty of nutrients here. And I'm super excited. When I have a vegan meal, number one, I'm hungry an hour later, but I look like I'm pregnant because I'm fully bloated and I keep eating because my body is like searching from the nutrients to come into that food, right? And I'm just not getting it. So it's really interesting that your body knows, right? And it's wanting those nutrients. And I know you also talk about the basics on gluten, right?
And this is important. The gluten is very important. So especially with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease that affects the thyroid gland. When you consume gluten, it's sort of like thyroid endocrine mimicry in a bad way. And your immune system goes, wait a minute, that looks like thyroid tissue, sort of, and we're going to start attacking and fighting it, right, to try to get rid of it. And that's when antibodies raise. Antibodies equal inflammation. You do not want that. If you have Hashimoto's, your entire goal in life is to get those antibodies down to as low as possible within the range or undetectable. Okay. So, and that's true, by the way, for most autoimmune disorders. Okay. So my friend Palmer Kippola cured herself of MS. Took her 20 years, but she also would say to follow a standard diet, and gluten is also the thing. So she eliminated gluten for the first week. All of her gastrointestinal stuff went away. After a month, zero MS symptoms, and has not had one since. She wrote a book called Beat Autoimmune. So it's really with every autoimmune disorder, grains should be eliminated, but particularly gluten, but definitely for Hashimoto's. It's very clear. So yes, that's why I do recommend an ancestral paleo primal diet. Could you still fix your thyroid problem without it? Yeah. But if you have Hashimoto's, you are asking for trouble if you keep eating gluten. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a slice of New York pizza a couple times a year or whatever, right? We're human beings. I'm paleo. I'll still eat a sandwich every now and then with bread that, again, it's not part of my regular life, right? So go live, have the piece of brie and the cracker at the thing. But if I had Hashimoto's, I'd probably never eat gluten, and it would be very, very, very rare. Besides, there's so many gluten-free options right now and grain-free options for breads and things that provide that texture and the thing that you want, right? So there's so many other great options out in the world. But yeah, gluten's terrible. And then also, of course, we want selenium. We want to eat things high in selenium. We want to up our nutrients. Iodine's important, of course, you know, and you've talked about that. So vitamin D, what we often see with people that are hypothyroid is very low vitamin D, low B12, and low iron storage. Because your body can't hold on to nutrients when you're hypothyroid, by the way, that's why. So you could be, like when I was hypothyroid, before I got on thyroid hormone replacement, I was craving chicken liver. Like I was craving, I clearly had an issue with iron, but it didn't matter how much I ate. At a certain point, you have to supplement. At a certain point, you have to go for the strong stuff. At a certain point, 2 Brazil nuts is not going to be your selenium answer, And it is because when you're hypothyroid, everything's slow and sluggish. So you're producing less hydrochloric acid. It's not breaking down the nutrients, your stomach and your digestion, and everything's compromised. So you really kind of can't hold on to it. And that's why we see these classic deficiencies in people that have thyroid issues.
And it's really important to take note of your nutrients and what you're getting in, because our food supply is so much more depleted than it was before. So really take note of how you're feeling, and you are your best doctor. Elle, I want to make sure we have time to talk about your course, your thyroid course. Who is it for? What does it entail? And my goodness, if you guys think that you learned anything in the last 50 minutes, wait until you hear what she's offering.
Yeah, wait till you hear me for 20 plus hours. No, so it's the ultimate thyroid course, but I want to let everyone know I have a free 2-hour thyroid masterclass that's very in depth. Just go take that. It comes with a free thyroid guide. Like, you don't even have to pay for anything. But if that's not enough for you and you want to dig deeper, the ultimate thyroid course is literally the most comprehensive thyroid course on the planet. There is nothing like it. It is 29 hours, okay, but 23 hours of original material and then some extras in there. That is basically a semester in college. It's not just me. It's Dr. Forsman, the doctor on my book, The Paleo Thyroid Solution, going through 2 hours of gut healing the gut, an hour on detox, an hour on thyroid. We have New York Times bestselling author and keto expert Brad Kearns giving an entire tutorial about paleo primal. Sometimes when you hear it versus read it, it also includes my book. But you know what? I welcome everyone to go to elleruss.com, click courses, and click on the thyroid course, because here's why. Just scrolling through the sales page, there are testimonials on there. There's a 30-minute testimonial on reverse T3. There's a thyroid cancer survivor 20-minute testimonial on there. You might learn enough to solve your problem by just looking at the sales page. Like, literally, this is, and I hope that that's the case. I mean, I've had people hear me being interviewed and have reached out and said, I heard you interviewed. You mentioned those tests. I got them, solved my thyroid problem. Great. Look, I would love to sell books, but I'm more in the business of helping get rid of this 200 million plus people in the world problem. And so that's why I do give out a bunch of free information and interviews. I've got a free thyroid guide on my website, but it also comes with the free thyroid masterclass. That's 2 hours. Just watch it. And if you don't feel like you got enough from that, yeah, maybe you want to dig in the course. The course is for medical practitioners, doctors, patients, anyone suffering. Could be a health coach who wants to try to help people and understand this more, because this problem keeps coming up, and it is disproportionately an issue with women. So women have more problems with this than men do, but then men can be discounted because it's seemingly seen sometimes as a female issue. So people aren't usually thinking thyroid, just as in the guy, 25-year-old, the low testosterone, who was the male. And the doctor didn't think to test the thyroid. But that goes for doctors in psychiatry. They should be testing the thyroid. No one should be ever put on an antidepressant or any psychological drug unless you have ruled this out, because this affects the brain. We have more T3 receptors there than anywhere else. This is absolutely involved in neurotransmitters, how we feel, dopamine, all of that stuff. So if you're not ruling it out and you're just taking a pill, it always has to be ruled out. And again, it's not because I think it's so important. It's technically the master gland of the human body. So any problem that happens, look at the thyroid first.
1,000%. I can tell you, when my thyroid's down, I am depressed, right? So it is definitely affecting your brain, your body, your spiritual health, everything. Elle, thank you so much. Everybody, if you are interested in the course, the link is below in the description, and you can use coupon Sara, S-A-R-A, for a discount on the course. And thanks again, Elle. We will have you back. And thank you, everybody else, for joining us today. If I can help you with your health issues, you can contact me directly through my website, sarabantahealth.com. I am happy to put together a protocol for you. And I know it's hard to know where to start. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and over 100 channels, including YouTube, iHeart, iTunes, Stitcher, and Pandora, and find this episode and all of my episodes. If If you like what you heard today, please hit the subscribe button and share with a few of your friends. I know that 9 out of 10 of your friends have thyroid issues and they need to hear this episode. You can also join us every week on Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific time and Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time for live shows. You can find my supplements and all of the informational videos on the website, sarabantahealth.com. You can use coupon WELCOME10 for 10% off site-wide as well. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next week. Thanks, Elle.
Thank you.